CenTsolo presents.
What up, everyone? Ladies and gentlemen, we got a special guest with us today. A man who battled drug addiction, fought a war within himself, decided enough was enough. He got tired of being incarcerated, got tired of making excuses. He wanted to be a role model for his son. He has a YouTube channel I lost once. He's also constantly making inspiring music. I'm excited to introduce Beto Trujillo. Hey, what up, my boy?
All right. What's happening, man?
Hey, what up, what up?
All right, chilling.
So this is where the story begins. So this is CenTsolo. This is where Beto, he resided when he was younger. His childhood memories. Take a look. So this is where it was at, huh?
Yeah, so after the house that I showed you in Paradise Hills,
Yeah.
I stayed there till I was about 7 years old. My aunt was married to a man at that time who was basically like my father figure. They were my parents for 7 years, you know? So after their divorce, we ended up moving here. So they ended up eventually getting divorced after 7 years, and I moved here with my aunt to my grandmother's house. My grandmother's house was apartment number 1, unit 1 on the bottom,
Yeah.
right under the stairs. So man, all right, so this complex right here is the complex I moved to after San Isidro.
Yeah.
I was here from like 8 to like 9 years old, maybe 10. And then we moved down the way, down to Orange Avenue. We took over, my grandmother had bought a house over on Orange Avenue right here in Otay, and she was having trouble paying it. So my aunt and her husband, which were my adopted parents, went over there to help out and save the house, basically, you know? So then we all moved into the house down the way. But I was here for a couple years after San Isidro, actually in this apartment right there in the corner.
Yeah.
That middle building right there in the corner. We had a life of like sport, like involved with sports, you know? So here's another part of my story is that I played a lot of soccer growing up, from the first marriage in the house at Paradise Hills all the way up until I was 14 years old. From 4 years old to about 14, I played soccer every weekend. Like basically I was in a league, if not 2 leagues at a time, and very involved with soccer. So what I do remember a lot from this place was all the games that I used to go to playing soccer when I was living at this complex.
Yeah. So when did you start drinking and smoking weed?
So part of my story is that when I turned about 13, maybe 12, 13, I wanted to start having more of a social life and hanging out, you know? Soccer was my life pretty much as a kid growing up, you know, and it got old after a while to me. I wanted to start hanging out, you know? So first time I smoked weed was, I was 12 years old, and we had just I did school from 7th grade. My 7th grade year, I did school for a couple hours, and one of the dudes from school, he was a pothead, and he had some weed. We smoked it out of a can, and basically from that point on, I started buying weed and taking weed to school, to junior high, and smoking behind the handball courts every day from that point on.
So what age did you go to juvenile hall, and what led you there?
So juvenile hall came at about 14 probably. So once I started like smoking weed and hanging out, having a social life with people that were having fun as teenagers, I got into graffiti. So I became a tagger, quote unquote, and I was basically infatuated with spray painting all over my neighborhood, you know? And I would do it frequently. So when the first time I got arrested was me basically getting caught down the street from my house. I was at my homie's pad on his block. I tagged up a curb, and the neighbor basically called the cops, you know? Little badass kids.
Yeah, shit. How young were you when you were first introduced to meth?
So around 14 as well. So after junior high school, I basically, for junior high school, I didn't really attend much of 8th grade. My 8th grade year, I just basically ditched and just didn't go to school much, you know? So I took a long vacation basically from 8th to the summer to 9th grade, right? And then for 9th grade, for the first half of the 9th grade year, I didn't go to school either. So I basically took all of 8th grade off, all up into second semester of my 9th grade year. And during that time is where I started getting introduced to these different types of drugs, you know? And I was hanging out with older people and basically staying out all night and not having any kind of responsibilities as a teenage kid. No, I didn't care what my parents wanted of me. I was just very rebellious and doing whatever I wanted, you know?
Yeah.
So around that time is when I was introduced to it, before high school.
So you got busted at age 16 for crossing weed from Tijuana.
And so my dad got mad.
And you still kept getting in trouble for the same thing. What was going inside your head at the time?
So after my little drug, like experimenting with drugs and getting high off weed and things that the graffiti, ending up going to juvenile hall and all that stuff, I went through a rough patch and I didn't like it. I was like, dude, this is like too much. This is too much drama, and it's too draining. You know, it was taking a lot of my energy, and I didn't like it. So what I did after going to juvenile hall a couple times and basically having to think about what I wanted to do with because I'm supposed to be having fun, right? I'm supposed to be partying and having fun, right? So what fun is going to jail and getting in trouble and being in trouble with your family, you know? It wasn't working out. So at about 16 years old, most of my buddies who were going in and out of juvenile hall that were going through the same experience as me at that time, they basically changed their way of thinking as well, and they got into the weed game. And so the weed game back then was everybody smoked weed, right? But if you had a good resource with weed at during that time, people would give you, front you, or lend you, give you in advance with a couple ounces, or like, you know, a pound of weed. You know, that was a big thing back then as a kid, you know, at 16 years old, you know. So we always had weed and we're always smoking, but my buddies, the ones that were getting the weed, were actually working with older guys, like guys in their 30s. My buddies are like 16 years old and they're working with like grown men who are having them cross weed for them, you know. So we got into that. We went through a phase of honestly using any friend that we had that was down to cross, we'd sign them up and have them cross the next day, you know. And so I ended up getting busted at 16, crossing, and I got released at the border to my parents. Shortly after 16, when I was 18, almost turning 19, I got busted again crossing, and all I was really focused on was making money and not having to have a responsibility as like not having a job, you know, just being able to kick it, have fun, and make money, fast money, you know.
Yeah.
That's what was going on through my head at the time, you know.
From 2011 to 2018, you were a full-blown drug addict. Can you tell us about that? And also, can you tell us about overdosing on fentanyl and slamming crystal meth?
Okay, so we're going all the way from a teenager to the adult, to becoming a young adult. When I started using these other drugs, right, I didn't realize that it like festers and it stays, like the desire to want to get high off stuff stays in you, even no matter how long you stay clean for. So I went through a long extended period from my young adult to my 30s where I would just use here and there. Occasionally I'd go on these binges where I'd be using meth and smoking weed. My main thing was the substance that I struggled the most with was with meth, right? And so over the course of from 20 to like 30 years old, I didn't think I had a problem. Basically, I was messing with it and I didn't think I had a problem. But once I got into my 30s and I started having more problems, personal issues like going to jail, broken relationships, just drama, things that were all due to my lifestyle. Well, the addiction kicked in and started becoming worse because I was using more because my life was getting worse, you know? And to manage and to deal with the thought of my life being so messed up, I started getting high more. So I basically got to a point where I was on probation, running from the law, not reporting because I'm getting high and I don't want to go test, because I know if I go test, I'm going to get locked up, you know? So I did a bunch of violations for dirty tests. I went to a bunch of programs, but the whole time that I went through these motions and these processes, I was just buying time just to get out and go get high again, you know what I'm saying? So then eventually what I did is I said, you know what? Why am I buying all this time and jumping through all these hoops just to go get high again? Why don't I just say F probation and cut it at the root and say, you know what, I'm not dealing with these people, and just go get high and be content and get high in peace with not having to deal with probation and just go full throttle, you know? So into my 30s, mid 30s, and into my early 40s, I basically I was running from the law, never going to check in with probation, living in hotels because I couldn't stay at my house because probation would hit my grandma's or my mom's house, you know what I'm saying? Nobody wanted me around because they knew that I was not abiding by the law, so I was just a big headache or a liability to be around, you know what I'm saying? So these were my darkest times, you know, not being able to be with family or with people that really loved me and cared for me genuinely, you know? So I was hanging out with a bunch of dope fiends and people that were that didn't care about their lives either, you know? And during those times are when I started finding myself shooting up, trying meth, heroin, fentanyl, different ways, you know? I started shooting up and went into like a 2-year, literally like a 2-year binge of just, it was like if I wasn't, like I didn't even exist. Nobody knew where I was or who I was anymore, you know what I'm saying? And so that being said, in those 2 years, I basically extinguished myself or erased myself from my social environment, my family environment, and I tucked myself away in an environment with nothing but drug addicts, you know, where I was accepted, and I fell into a funk there. So during that time, one of my girls that I was seeing at the time, she would do heroin, you know, and I was a meth head. So at that time, her and I, we really liked each other and we hung out a lot and stuff. She is very calm and very chill, you know, a relaxed person. Of course, the heroin helps it too, you know what I'm saying? So it keeps her low key, you know. And I'm high strung, and then I'm a meth head, right? So then we came up with this agreement. We're like, all right, look, so we're already slamming dope, shooting up and everything, so you can't get any worse, you know what I'm saying? So we came up with this agreement. All right, so when we hang out, when you do your shot of heroin, I'm gonna give you some of my crystals, so that way you're not, because she was real cool. I loved her, and she was good people, and I liked spending time with her. But when she'd shoot up, dog, she'd be folded over. You couldn't even interact with her. It was not even fun. It was like she was a dead mannequin or something, you know. And so I said, okay, so you're gonna put some meth in your syringe, so that way when you do it, you don't go overboard. You can at least stay awake and kick it, you know, and maintain and manage your staying alert, you know.
Yeah.
And so then she says, okay, but you know what, you're gonna do the same, because when you shoot up meth, the hotel room, and I can't get you to sit down and just calm down and kick it with me, so you're all over the place, you know. I can't stop you. She's also, when you do your issue of meth, when you shoot your issue, you're gonna put some of my heroin in there, so that way when you do it, it'll leave you nice and balanced, and it'll take the edge off of you, and you could be calm and actually sit down and enjoy my company, you know. I was like, all right. So then we were doing that for a while, right? So one of my buddies hits me up. He goes, hey Beto, look man. He's all, dude, this is one of my friends that was in the weed game back in the day that I know from childhood, right? So he's like, he's still in the same business doing shit, right? He's like, hey Beto, I'm gonna invest in some heroin, bro, because right now that's what's popping, you know. And I got a good price on some people in TJ that are gonna hook me up with a couple kilos. So I got a couple samples of some heroin, and what I want you to do, look, I don't know who else to give it to, because I don't know anybody who does this shit, dog, but I know that I want to make some money and I want to invest in this shit, and it seems like a good opportunity. So he gives me like 4 different heroines, right? And he goes, Beto, look bro, he's, I'm giving it to you because I know you know a bunch of dope fiends, bro. But he comes up to me and he grabs me on my shoulder and he tells me, but please Beto, because I know you're a fucking dope fiend and you pretty much put anything in your body. He's like, please give me your word full that you're not gonna try any of this shit out. You're not gonna use any of this. Let your friends do it and then tell you how good it is, you know, because I don't want to see you all strung out on heroin, bro. That's the last thing I want, you know. But he didn't know that I was already using it with my homegirl, you know, mixing it. And so I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, all right, cool, whatever. So in that batch of samples for the heroin that he gave me, there was a fentanyl bag, and it was white powder. Okay, so I wasn't really hip to fentanyl around that time. This was in 2016 or 16 or 17, somewhere around there. So I mean, fentanyl wasn't really a big fiasco at the time, you know. What I thought it was China White, which is the best and the most pure heroin, and it's powder. It's not tar or hard, right? So then I go, okay, so out of all of these little batches, I want to go for the good one, you know. So me and my homegirl we're showering. We take a shower or whatever. We're getting ready to go somewhere, and we're at the hotel room or whatever. And so I mix my shot with hers. Boom, boom, boom. I'm coming out of the room. I mean, out of the bathroom to go to chill on the bed, you know, after showering. And I put a couple sprinkles on my container where I'm drawing my issue up from my syringe with meth in it, right? So I put a couple, just like a little tiny bit of dust of the white heroin, right? And I put some in hers. Boom. I leave her shot right there. I draw mine up. I hit it. And then I'm like, all right, I'll wait for you outside. I'm gonna be out in the room, you know. So she's finishing up showering, doing whatever she's doing. When she comes out, dude, I'm black. I'm on the bed, black and blue. I don't even remember after doing the shot, passing out or going out and overdosing. So she comes out and she says, so all I remember is waking up on the bed later on with the rag over my head and her telling me, I'm like, what happened? She's all like, oh, you just had an overdose. You know, you're good though. I brought you back, and you just rest. You know, like just chill. Don't get up. Don't be nervous. You know, don't worry. You know, just kick it, relax. You know, because when I came out, you were black and blue. So there was another buddy that was there with us that doesn't do any of those kind of drugs, you know. He just smokes weed and drinks, right? And he was like tripping out because when my friend came out of the bathroom to see me black and blue, he was coming into the room or knocking to see what we were up to because he kicked it with us too, you know. And so
So what made you change?
So honestly, what got me was going in and out of jail behind my addiction. So over the course of 20 something years, 23 years from the first time I went to prison, I started noticing, I'm like, bro, like I'm going to jail for being an addict. I'm not even committing crimes anymore. I'm going to jail for being an addict, bro. That was pathetic, you know? And in this last time I went in for 4 months on a federal violation, and I swear, bro, like that time right there seemed like an eternity, and it seemed like that was my turning point right there, where it's like, dude, this is where I draw the line now, bro. You know, like it's getting old. I'm old, and I wanted something different, you know? So if going to jail keeps me from getting high, then so be it, you know? If that's what it took to motivate me, then that's what it is, you know?
Yeah, so so you got into music, right? So what type of music do you do?
So my music, I write inspirational, motivational, basically music that's about self-discovery, about self-help, learning about myself, and learning how to express myself with the best interpretation or description possible, without cussing, without being too vulgar and inappropriate. It's basically like poetry in music, you know? So I've been writing poems and writing stuff, basically music, for since I first went to prison, you know, back in 2001. And I never really pursued anything with it. I just pretended to rap here and there. You know, I would go to some studios with people, and I would get in on a little rap session and record some music, but I never took it serious. So every time I'm locked up or I have some time away, I write. And I write my deepest feelings and thoughts, and they turn into and they form songs. So I had a bunch of songs written that I never did anything with. And so this time when I get out from my violation, I'm telling myself, you know what, dude, I'm gonna start doing stuff that I really have wanted to do for many years, and music was one of them. So I started getting into it, started working, put out about 30 songs in the last 8 months, and it's lovely, man. It's a good channel, and I like what it's been doing for me. It's literally, I feel like it's saved my life from spending time doing things that aren't safe or healthy for me, you know?
So what advice can you give to the people who are still in their addiction, chasing the fast money, and the steps they can take to find their motivation?
So after all the said and done and everything that you do, fast, slow, negative, positive, there's going to be a consequence. The consequence is what you have to deal with. The outcome is what you are faced with. And if you put your time into a negative lifestyle and negative behaviors, such as committing crime, getting high, hanging out with people who are not interested in having a healthy life, you know, who are neglecting their best interests or their health, then you're gonna get a negative outcome. You know, so as much as it sounds cliche and it sounds like common sense, it's not. You know, people have a hard time doing the right thing or doing something that they know is good for them, you know. But after so long of making the same mistakes over and over, getting high, dealing with the same people, going through the same struggles, there's going to be a time in your life, like it was in mine, where it's like, I'm getting the same result, time's passing, I'm losing more time and more life by joining and making the decision to get high, hang out with people who get high, commit crime, end up in jail, and not have any stability in my life, you know? So any drug addict and any normal person, whether you're an addict or not, wants stability in their lives. I don't care who you are, you know? And if you want to have a stable life and a healthy life, and you got to think twice about the choices you're making, getting high, committing crime, getting stuck in that lifestyle is just going to bring you right back to the starting point, and you're going to have to start all over again anyways, you know? So it makes no sense, you know? Hey, man.
But you changed.
I've changed. I've done a lot of change.
Peep his music at his YouTube channel.
Lost once, CenTsolo.
Hey, thank you so much, my boy. You know, it was a great rap.
Yeah. I'm glad to be able to share it with everybody, and I hope that something that I shared will touch your hearts and give you guys the motivation, or at least the feeling that you're not alone, you know, because we're all going through it one way or another, and maybe something I shared will resonate or give you that push to know that somebody else is going through the same thing, has made a change, and that is living through it and living by it now, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Peace out.